Welcome back to United Taste of America. I'm Rick K. Jones, your host. United Taste of America is part of iHeart Podcast's special programming around the celebration of America's 250th birthday all this year. Today we find ourselves discussing the third state in the Union. That state is New Jersey. Like so many other states, Native Americans had settled throughout the area before the Europeans discovered America. The first explorer of the area was an Italian explorer named Giovanni da Verrazzano. You may know that name. It's the famous Verrazzano's Bridge that separates the state of New Jersey from Staten Island and the state of New York. Well, Giovanni came to the area in 1524, but it was the Dutch who actually settled in the area, much like they settled over in Manhattan in New York. They settled in New Jersey, and they called the place New Netherland. But then the Dutch were defeated by the British, and the British renamed it New Jersey for the Isles of Jersey in the English Channel, and it was named by the Duke of York, who later became the king. New Jersey was one of our 13 original colonies and played a huge role during the American Revolution. There are lots of very famous Revolutionary War battles that were fought in New Jersey. In fact, over 100 battles were fought, and several of them were critical ones. You know, one of the most famous is in Trenton. This is where George Washington on Christmas Eve crossed the Delaware, the icy Delaware River from Pennsylvania into New Jersey, knowing that the Hessian troops would have celebrated Christmas and would have a hangover. They would have gotten drunk. They would have a hangover. And he surprised them and ambushed them and defeated them there in Trenton. Later, we had a very famous battle that we won at Princeton. Now, let's speak about Princeton. Princeton is famous for what? Princeton University. It's the fourth oldest college in America. It was founded in 1746 as the College of New Jersey. Now, my favorite basketball player of all time actually matriculated at Princeton. His name was Bill Bradley. You may remember Bill Bradley. Bill Bradley was a kid from St. Louis. Everybody wanted him. He was a great player. Came to Princeton, became a Rhodes Scholar, later became a member of the New York Knicks, won a couple of world championships with the Knicks, went on to be pretty successful, actually became a senator from the state of New Jersey. But I got a great story about him. In 1980, Senator Bradley had decided to run for president. He was going to run for the Democratic nomination for president against a guy named Al Gore. Al Gore had been the vice president of the United States under Bill Clinton, and Bradley is running for the Democratic nomination. Well, my daughter was going to school in New York at the time. She went to NYU, and I would periodically go up and see Jennifer, and inevitably, when I would come, we would always go to the theater. Jennifer was a theater major, and I like to go to the theater in New York. And so I called her and said, hey, I'm going to be in New York on business. They're doing the previews of a new play called Kiss Me Kate. Kiss Me Kate is Cole Porter's play about William Shakespeare's story of the Taming of the Shrew. Great play. I said, let's go see the previews while I'm up there. Well, when we got there, there was a big sign on the marquee called Broadway for Bradley. And it turned out that that night of the previews was a fundraiser for Bill Bradley. And I said to my daughter, I said, I wonder if he's going to be here. Well, not only was he there, he sat on our row. And then when the play ended, and the play was, Brian Stokes Mitchell and others, I mean, it's a phenomenal play. Kiss Me Kate's got a great score, again, Cole Porter. When it was over, Bill Bradley gave a speech, and this was going to be the first time Jennifer could vote for a president she was old enough to vote in an election. And I said, let's stick around and hear him. And he gave a great speech, and it was really, really, really great. Bill Bradley would have been a great president, candidly. He didn't win the nomination. Al Gore did and got defeated by George Bush. Rest is history. But Bradley gave this great speech. But anyway, because of that, we're late leaving the theater. So I am staying at the Marriott Marquis there in Times Square, and Jennifer is living, I think, up on the Upper East Side with some girls. And so I walked down and put her in a cab. And so I'm backing up from the cab, doing this to my daughter, kissing her, blowing her kisses. And I knock somebody down. And I turn around, and it's Bernadette Peters. Bernadette Peters had been doing Annie Get Your Gun at the theater there at the Marquis, and she's teeny, and I knock her down. And being the eloquent Southern gentleman that I am, I turn to her and go, hey. And she goes, hey. And I pick her up, tell her I'm a big fan, apologize for knocking her down. She gets in her limo, goes away. I go up to my room. That's my 1980 Bill Bradley, Bernadette Peters story. Bill Bradley also wrote a great book about what he learned from basketball called Values of the Game. I encourage you to get this book. It's great. For years, I coached 8th grade boys basketball, and this was our textbook because it teaches you all the values of the game: cooperation, teamwork, sacrifice, all the things that you learn from it. Phil Jackson actually wrote the preface to the book. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. Bill Bradley, former senator, former great New York Knick, former player at Princeton, from the great state of New Jersey. They call New Jersey the Garden State. Now, and you say, well, there's industry everywhere. Not really. There's a lot of industry along the waterways and in the northern part, but the southern part is still very beautiful, very rural, and it's really interesting with a lot of still agricultural land. But did you know this? New Jersey has the highest per cap population, highest population per size of the state of any other state in the Union. A lot of people think Ellis Island is in New York, right? It's not. It's in New Jersey. It's in the New Jersey waters. And over 60 years, when Ellis Island was open, 7 million immigrants came through Ellis Island, and a lot of them didn't go much further. A lot of them actually settled in New Jersey, especially Italians. And you may know this, between 1880 and 1930, about a 50-year period, 2/3 of every person from southern Italy, including Sicily, left because they were being persecuted. There were no jobs. The northern Italians controlled all the wealth. Southern Italians were poverty-stricken. And so Sicilians and southern Italians got on boats, came to South America, came to Australia, but most came to America, and a lot of them settled in New Jersey. The Jersey Shore was one of the first beach resort areas with a very famous city called Atlantic City, named for the Atlantic Ocean. Atlantic City was really the first resort in America, and they built the first boardwalk there in 1870. Now, how many of you have played the game Monopoly? Monopoly is laid out in streets of Atlantic City. All of those, Park Place, Broadway, Marvin Gardens, all that are streets in Atlantic City, New Jersey. And in 1921, they started something that's very famous. They started the Miss America pageant that is held annually in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Our most famous inventor was Thomas Edison. He set up shop in Menlo Park, New Jersey, invented so many things. There's only one president from the state of New Jersey. Anybody know who that is? That would be Grover Cleveland. What does Grover Cleveland have in common with Donald Trump? Grover Cleveland was the first and only other president that was elected president, defeated for his second term, came back and ran again and won, much like Donald Trump has done today. Our playlist, what I call the soundtrack of our soundtrack of our of our podcast series, is terrific today because so many great artists have come from New Jersey. And so we've got songs by Tom Waits called Jersey Girl. We've got a great song called Living on a Prayer by Bon Jovi. Bruce Springsteen is from New Jersey, born in the USA. You know, born in the USA, a lot of people think it's a pro-USA song. It's not a pro-USA song. It's a song about all our problems in the United States, but it's a brilliant song. Maybe the most famous singer of all time is from Hoboken, New Jersey. His name was Frank Sinatra, and we've got a great song about the Jersey Shore on this playlist called The Summer Wind. And they built the first theme park in America called Palisades Park in New Jersey. And there was a very famous song from the 50s by a guy named Freddie Boom Boom Cannon called Palisades Park. The culinary history of New Jersey, in my opinion, really is the story of the Italian immigrants. Firstly, in New Jersey, it's known for its diners. There are more diners per capita in New Jersey than any other state in the union, even though recently, especially post-COVID, we're beginning to lose some of those diners, which is tragic. Why diners in New Jersey? Well, from 1917 to 1952, the Jerry O. Mahoney Diner Company in Elizabeth, New Jersey, made diners. They made prefabricated diners that many of them look like train cars, as you know. And so immigrants could come and buy a diner direct from the factory on credit. And so you immediately could take possession of it, pull it in a cart, pull it in a car, whatever, put it on a street corner, and you're in business, immediately in business. And so diners are all over New Jersey with, you know, what we call the classic diner food. You know, I love breakfast. I like breakfast 24 hours a day. A lot of diners are open 24 hours a day. You can get hash browns with, you know, onions and peppers, get eggs any way you want them, get pancakes. So many diners, big menus, homemade desserts, you name it. Sit at the counter, watch them cook your meal. It's a great thing. But the second thing New Jersey's known for are sub sandwiches. And again, it comes from the Italians. Italians, if you've been to Italy, are famous for their sandwiches. You know, and they have all kinds of sausages and processed meats and different kinds of things that they make in Italy. I love a great pork sandwich, porchetta sandwich. And so they, again, Italians that had settled realized quickly that you could own a sandwich shop for not a lot of investment. And so if you go in New Jersey, it's like every small town has half dozen sandwich shops almost on every street corner. And they they have delis or sub shops pretty much everywhere. So we decided to feature the sub sandwich as the iconic dish of New Jersey. So which one do you pick? Well, we ended up picking the only chain restaurant in our series, and it's Jersey Mike's, because it's the only sub shop with the name Jersey in it. It's a great story. Peter Cancrow bought Mike's Sub Shop. He had worked there beginning as a 14-year-old at Mike's Sub Shop. Now, Peter was a very good high school football player, but his football coach encouraged him, don't go to college, buy the sub shop. So Peter Cancrow buys Mike's Subs in 1975. Mike's Subs had been started in 1956, but Peter buys it in 1975 as a 17-year-old. Okay, 17-year-old. You know, hey, the rest is history. The original one is in Point Pleasant, New Jersey, at the beach, and he didn't franchise till much later. He just had the one shop, then he added a second shop. His brother ran the second shop, and then he decided to franchise because what he found was a lot of people would eat it and take it with them. Then he found out people were even taking it on planes, and decided maybe this sub thing could work other places. And the rest is really history. So what sandwich did we feature? You remember last week in Pennsylvania, we featured the great Philly cheesesteak. When I went to film the vignette at the original Jersey Mike's location, Peter's daughter, Caroline Jones, runs that shop. Caroline's a wonderful young lady. We found out we had something in other, small world, something in common. I live on Wadmalaw Island, South Carolina, next to Johns Island, South Carolina. Caroline got married on Johns Island at Fenwick Hall. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And just a delightful gal. But we filmed, and I was starving. And she said, let me make you for breakfast our version of a Philly cheese sandwich. My mother used to say, do you know the difference between a good meal and a great meal? About an hour. Okay. By the time I got around to eating that sub sandwich, I was starved, and it was fabulous. But that's not the one we featured. We featured their classic Italian sub because we're talking about Italians made Mike's way. Okay. Fresh lettuce, freshly cut tomato, freshly cut onions, olive oil and red wine vinegar and spices, and then 5 meats: ham, prosciutto, capelluto, salami, and pepperoni, plus provolone cheese. Oh my goodness. I eat a lot at Jersey Mike's, and I have a hard time ordering anything other than the Italian Mike's way. That's how good it is. And it was fabulous. Caroline started working at the shop at 14, like her dad had done. Her uncle owned that shop, and now she manages and runs that shop. It's really, really good. Couple other things about Jersey Mike's. They have amazing and fun commercials with Danny DeVito. And he's a Jersey guy. He's from Asbury Park, right up the coast. And he's perfect. And I asked Caroline about, and she said the outtakes are even funnier than the guy just riffs. And if you've seen the ones that he does with Peter Cancro, Peter's like the straight man and, deadpan, and Danny's all over the place. They're so good. And now Jersey Mike's has become the official sub sandwich of the National Football League of the NFL. And they're doing really fun commercials with Eli Manning. And so Danny and Eli doing really, really great commercials that are really, really fun. Like I said, I eat at Jersey Mike's a lot. I'm a huge fan. It was great to go to the original one and see how they make the sandwich. And you can see that on the vignette when you look at it on YouTube. But let me tell you what else I like. I like their commitment to the communities they serve and to charity. And one example of that is they do a National Day of Giving each Wednesday of March. This year, it will be on Wednesday, March the 25th. And that day, guess what they do? They give 100% of all sales to local charities. Not the proceeds, all sales. If you pay $5 for a foot long, $5 goes to the charity. And so they're donating their time, their raw material, all the things that they do. In Charleston last year, they donated money to our children's hospital, which I love. But every community gets to pick what charity they support. Last year, on the one single day, they raised over $30 million that they gave to charity. Now, I go every year, but I also go the day after because I want to thank the owner-operator for what he did the day before. And so that's what I would encourage you to do. National Day of Giving, Wednesday, March 25th, coming up soon. I'd like you to go that day and then go back the next day and thank the owner-operator. Jersey Mike's in New Jersey, it really is a sub above. Now, here is New Jersey's three from me list of some other terrific restaurants in the state. Well, firstly, I got two historic diners that make the list because, as I told you, I love diners and I love the people that work there. You know, you may remember the classic Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. And then there was a movie with Ellen Burstyn. She played a waitress in a diner. Later, it became a TV show called Alice. Flo, remember Flo, her Alice's best friend, who was that's the classic diner waitress. You just meet characters in diners. And because they're so small, you're sitting in proximity to people. If you're sitting at the counter, you're sitting next to somebody you may have never met before. And what are you going to do? You're going to talk to them. Or if you're sitting in a booth, you're hearing the conversation in the booth behind you because it's only like 2 feet away. It's the perfect social occasion while you're having food. Two great diners in New Jersey that I love, that I've eaten at. The first one is in East Newark. It's called Tops Diner. It's Tops. I'm telling you. It's got all of what you would consider great diner foods. They make amazing omelets, corned beef hash and eggs. I mean, I'm biased. Breakfast is my favorite meal of the day, and I can get it anytime I want in a diner, and I love it. Somerset Diner, though, is another one in Somerset, and I have to tell you, it may be the best corned beef hash I've ever had in the world. I love corned beef hash. They make it there from scratch. Brine their own corned beef, make their own corned beef, cut it up, put it in the hash browns. It's phenomenal. And there's another great restaurant in Atlantic City. It's a classic Italian restaurant that was started in 1935, still on the same street corner. It's Angelo's Fairmount Tavern. Folks, it's the classic Southern Italian menu. It's a huge menu, old school Italian, tablecloths, red wine, red sauces, great seafood, great pasta. It's phenomenal. That's New Jersey. It's the land of diners and Italian sandwiches. It's another great stop on our tour of America, United Taste of America. We'll see you next week from state number 4, which is my birth state, the state of Georgia.